Hey everyone, welcome to this new moon Sidereal Astrology forecast for the new moon on Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. All right, so we have a new moon in the constellations of Libra, the Scales, and Scorpio, the Scorpion. Now, if you're expecting me to say Sagittarius just then, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology, and you will notice that the signs are different. All right, so all in all, a subtle new moon. This will probably be a short and sweet video. Not a whole lot going on here. We're really ending the previous lunar month, which was very deep and transformative, being the eclipse month. But here, a nice subtle new beginning. I think it's going to be about bringing more balance into our life with Libra the Scales, that part of it, perhaps even with relationships as well. And Scorpio the Scorpion, the deeper side of it, depth, truth, trust, all that deeper energy illuminating, coming to the surface, especially with the sun starting to transition into deep Scorpio right after this new moon. But the aspects are on the easier side of things. We do have a slight trine up to Jupiter, and not technically a trine up to Neptune, but I'm going to read it as such since Jupiter and Neptune are conjunct. But with Jupiter, a bit of buoyancy, maybe open-mindedness. It's helping mitigate perhaps some of the deeper side of things, where we could be a bit philosophical, seeing the bigger picture, a bit free-spirited, at least easy to be so, usually with this trine to expansive Jupiter. The Neptune could be easier to be a bit receptive, go with the flow, perhaps things like compassion, understanding, acceptance in general. Living presently could be a lot easier, especially since last week we had perhaps more of a challenge with that one. And a sextile up to Pluto, maybe some depth, again, being a little easier to work with, even though it is deep Scorpio. Seeing a nice easy sextile to deep Pluto can be easier to do so. All right, so let's go and take a look at all this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky here for the new moon, which is again going to be on Wednesday, November 23rd of 2022. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky, the uneven sizes of the constellations. You can see that the constellations are different sizes here, which is very different from mainstream astrology, even mainstream astrology in India. Vedic astrology uses an even 30 degrees for all of the signs. And of course, Western tropical does the same. So the signs will change between these systems, but essentially we are using the visible sky here. And if you were to look up at this new moon or look at it through a planetarium software, you will see it right in between the constellations of Libra and Scorpio. All right, so if you are new to this channel, definitely check out that link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so new moon is a time of new beginnings. As you can see here, we have some of this bluer, easier energy to work with coming out of this new moon here, the conjunction here between the sun and moon, in between that Libra and Scorpio right here in this part of the chart. So there's always, of course, times to challenge ourselves, even during easier energies, but I think collectively this is going to be on the easier side of things, especially in contrast to the previous lunar month, the one that we're finalizing this week, because that was the eclipse month, and we did have some challenging energies there. For example, last week we had that Mars going up to Neptune, which is that clash between our needs and having to be receptive about things in life. But anyways, this is a contrast to that, and again, always good to challenge ourselves though, even though it is on the easier side of things. So it is going to be in between Libra the Scales and Scorpio the Scorpion. Libra the Scales is all about seeing both sides of the coin and seeing that, of course, things in life are more fulfilling and fruitful and enjoyable when they're balanced. And so Libra is a great time, as it already has been with the sun transiting here for the past few weeks, and even the past month or so with Mercury and Venus, to see that even though there are two sides to a situation, that the middle path is usually the one that leads to the most fulfillment. So Libra energy is a good time to see if there's any areas that are out of balance, too much emphasizing one over the other, and walking more of that middle path. Now, Libra is also very much involving relationships oftentimes, and so we can see a lot of these things have already been in effect. But here, a new beginning, another step in the right direction, let's say, with relationships, with how we're relating with others, any partnerships, agreements, and just the dynamics of relationships being emphasized, suggesting a fresh new start to creating this, again, not only balance in our own personal lives, but in our interpersonal lives as well. Now, the Scorpio side is also relational, it can be, and so especially with Venus here, the ruler of Libra, it's all about depth, Scorpio the Scorpion. So now with this new beginning and the sun starting to transit into here, it's a great time to be focused on really the underworld, right? What is the aspects of life that are normally hidden, or that we've even hidden about ourselves, that now will be illuminated, right? And it's great to assist that, to set any intentions around illuminating the deeper world. So as you might guess, it's a great time for all types of psychology, transformative spirituality, healing. Also, not just within ourselves, but in life, such as through research, or uncovering hidden things, or the occult, or the esoteric, right? And in relationships, again, depth, trust, trust becomes a big one, intimacy, vulnerability. These types of themes usually get emphasized. Again, they probably already are at the moment since Venus is here. But again, a nice step in the right direction to bring in more depth into our lives, both personally and interpersonally as well. So right in between there, literally right in between, I think it's probably going to lean more on the Scorpio deeper side of things because of the fact that Mercury and Venus are here. And Venus is the ruler of Libra, pulling that energy into the Scorpio. But I think good to see it as both. And again, anything that is about balance, but also depth, realness, rawness, candidness, truth, great to set new intentions with, and start to incorporate more of that, raw elements of life. Okay, so as you can see here, the aspects are on the easier side. We have this trine up to Jupiter slightly here, who is going direct, just so happens to be going station direct at the same day here on Wednesday as the new moon. And so it's nice to see that opportunistic and open-minded Jupiter is in good harmony here, and now slowly starting to build some momentum. Do give it some time, of course. He's a relatively slow mover, and so it does take some time for him to build his momentum. But nonetheless, there could be some shifts. There could even be some opportunities coming into not only this new moon time period, but this whole lunar month for a lot of us. A lot of us are getting a shift of perspective, perhaps starting to become open-minded about maybe some of the stuff we were open-minded about earlier in the year. And a lot of it is in the context of Pisces, where Jupiter is collectively, which is the soul level stuff. What's important to us on a soul level, what brings more peace into our life, and what's spiritually fulfilling. And this is, I would say, also confirmed by the fact that Neptune, although not technically within that 5-degree orb that we would typically use to calculate the trine, is still very close to that trine, especially conjunct Jupiter here. So I think it's going to be certainly easier to do things like go with the flow with this lunar cycle. Again, in contrast to the previous lunar cycle, and particularly last week, when again Mars was squaring that Neptune. Yeah, easier, relatively speaking, to go with the flow, to be receptive, to be compassionate, accepting, these kinds of more spiritual qualities. Certainly on the easier side of things. All right, and then lastly here we do have this sextile up to Pluto. Nothing major, but Pluto being the modern ruler of deep Scorpio, it's nice to see him in good harmony here to the new moon. So an opening, sextiles are usually openings, and again, it's really just an opening or opportunity to have some depth, some deeper energy in our lives, and perhaps a bit easier to do so. Being in Sagittarius, the sign that Jupiter rules, we can see there's a lot of confluence or confirmation of that expansive energy, our perspective shifting, and again, our minds and perspective, views of life, opportunities, our own aspirations, right? Whatever it is that we can expand our view about. Fundamentally, life, though, is happening here. It's just transforming, changing. It's just easier to do so there. And again, anything Jupiter, Sagittarius related, such as philosophy or higher learning, maybe even some travel or some adventurous stuff, again, starting to shift here in support of this cycle. All right, and the last thing I do want to say is that the dispositor or traditional ruler here of Scorpio is Mars. And so Mars, traditionally ruling Scorpio, being retrograde right now and in Taurus, is just again a reminder that it is a good time of the year, especially as we wait for a lot of these outer planets to start to go direct, to reflect on things and redo things, but especially with that deeper energy we're talking about. Exploring, experimenting with things like trust, depth, research, uncovering, re-examining, our needs in these situations as well. Okay, and just a reminder to take things slow, and especially as these faster movers will start to oppose Mars this lunar cycle. Mars being in grounded Taurus, it's a reminder that in order to dive deep and do all this deep stuff, we do have to be grounded in the material world, natural world, nature and stuff like this, but also within ourselves, to be self-reliant and resourceful. Okay, so some things to kind of keep in mind. Nothing major there with this, but Mars is of course retrograde in Taurus, which is a reminder to take things slowly, steadily, and in a more grounded approach to things. All right, everyone, so that is the new moon in a nutshell. Most important thing is it's a reset, it's a new beginning. Give it time. Let the days as we approach Wednesday be a time of releasing, clearing, spiritual, letting the energies die down of that previous cycle, and slowly see what does emerge here out of this new beginning from Wednesday onwards. Next week, we'll be challenging ourselves and taking more action towards this stuff, but it's a good later part of this week to just experiment and try new things with it. Libra is about bringing more balance into our life personally and interpersonally, and Scorpio is about the depth, again, personally and interpersonally. All right, we have some support to expand those horizons a little bit and to dive deep there and perhaps go with the flow a bit. All right, so everyone have a fantastic new moon. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released first before YouTube. There's a link down below to sign up for that. But again, have a great one, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.